One now. Harper sighed and rubbed her grease-covered hands on a towel and watched Mason walk back through the hall that connected the bar to the garage. Then she busied herself with closing down the shop. She made a note in her calendar to call the Corvette owner tomorrow with an update, but the simple task of writing tended to make her head hurt. She'd been diagnosed with severe dyslexia in high school. She'd graduated high school, barely, but she hadn't been able to get into college. Numbers were easier to write, but words and names? It was like she was watching the letters dance around the page, and it gave her a migraine. If her father hadn't discovered she had a knack for mechanics, she didn't know where she might have ended up. Thankfully, engines, mechanics, and electronics all came to her with stunning clarity. When she turned 18, she'd been able to take over her father's repair shop. Harper paused to look at the photo of her parents that hung behind the reception desk inside the shop. In the photo, her parents were standing outside the repair shop entrance. It had been taken nearly 20 years ago, when she was only 4. Her father beamed with pride, and her mother was looking at him with admiration. They'd been so in love, so in tune with one another. And they were gone. A deep sting lanced through Harper's chest, a pain of loss and sorrow that would never fully heal, no matter how much time had passed. No one deserved to die the way they had. She kissed the tips of her fingers and pressed them to the glass of the framed photo. "Night, Mom and Dad." Then she lowered the shop doors, set the alarm system, turned off the lights, and passed through the hall and into the small office between the auto shop and the bar. The large desk against the far wall by the single window was littered with paperwork from both the shop and the bar. Harper growled. Every night she came back here, she had to clean up after Mason and Liam. They were great at dealing with vendors and customers, but they sucked at basic business organization and bookkeeping. She practically had to pester them to keep up their records. Harper shoved the papers aside to retrieve the folded set of clean clothes she brought to work every day. Shop work always left her khaki work suit covered in grease. She changed into her jean shorts and T-shirt with the King's Bar logo, a retro-looking crown beneath the name King in a bold stylistic font. Then she removed her work boots and slipped on some simple leather sandals. She wasn't girly, not compared to most girls she knew, but after work she did like to feel a bit more feminine, even if she was tending bar for her older brothers. As she exited the office, she could hear the rowdy sounds of the bar over the thrumming bass of the bar's modern jukebox. She opened the door and scanned the room. The walnut wood tables and even the bar itself were full, which was typical for a Saturday night. The kids from the University of Kansas loved to come and hang out after tough classes all week. "Harper!" Jessie Lang, one of the full-time waitresses, grinned and waved at Harper. Jessie carried a full tray of beers toward a table of men who were watching the nearest flat-screen TV hanging from one of the bar's support beams. They whooped as someone made a touchdown. College football was serious business in Kansas, and any good bar worth its salt would have a dozen TVs up and running with the latest games on. Harper smiled and waved at Jessie as they shared an amused shrug at the men talking football stats. She and Jessie were close in age, and she usually spent her free weekends hanging out with Jessie. A lot had changed since the Krinar had arrived. They had shut down production of beef and poultry, for one thing. Enforced veganism, most people called it, and she had to admit, of all the jackbooted declarations she had expected to come down the pipe from their new overlords, that was pretty damn close to the bottom of the list. But it had hit the Midwest hard. Many cities became ghost towns, and people had moved away and sold their grazing fields, which were unsuitable for crops and were now empty and valueless. It was why so much resistance had formed here against the Krinar. Mason and Liam had mobilized their friends who'd lost work when their homes had been sucked into the economic black hole the Krinar invasion had created, and their friends had brought other friends and so on. All because those damn aliens didn't eat meat. If I ever meet one of them, I'll shove a cheeseburger right down their throat. The rebellious thought made her smile widen. Having to eat the plant-based protein burger patties made her gag. "How's it going?" she asked her friend as she joined her at the bar. Jessie laughed, her dark brown eyes bright with her natural joy. "Busy as hell, and Katie's got the flu. You mind taking orders from those tables in the corner?" Jessie reached across the bar where she placed a new drinks order ticket for their bartender, Neil, who was busy mixing. "Sure." Harper gave Neil a nod, and he flexed his tattooed arms as he shook the martini mixer. The wall behind him was covered with 100 bottles of decent liquor, as well as some more expensive scotch and brandy. People came from miles around to King's Bar. Students, farmers, blue-collar workers, and even some upper-middle-class folk.